4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this important conversation about how we can help our furry friends here in Colorado to find their forever homes during the holiday season and beyond. As many of you know, this is an important passion issue for myself, for First Gentleman Marlon Reese. Our dog, the first pup of Colorado, Gia, is a rescue dog herself, a beloved member of our family. She's 12 years old and is a great part of our family, our first child, really. This is a cause that Marlon has worked so hard on in Colorado, raising the issue of animal welfare. Before the pandemic, we even had a couple animal adoption clinics at the governor's mansion, where I'm speaking to you live from. And he's also worked with a variety of organizations and partners to help give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Marlon, thank you for your leadership on a topic that so many people care about, how we treat our animals in Colorado, especially those under direct care, dogs and cats, really reflects on who we are as a people, who we are as a state. And I know that many Colorado animals face a brighter future because of your work. And that includes everything from expanding wildlife crossings that improve public safety and protect both motorists and wildlife, to partnering with the Denver Zoo to protect the survival of threatened species, supporting Colorado animal shelters and visiting them. We've made important strides for animals in Colorado, but we know that there's a lot more work to be done. And that's why we're here today to discuss the challenges that our shelters are facing in Colorado and across the country as we recover from a pandemic that created unique circumstances for all of us, including our pets. Vince, obviously this is something that's not unique to Colorado. What are some of the reasons the shelters are hearing from animals that are being returned to them in higher numbers than usual?
Well, thank you, Governor and First Gentleman, for bringing all of us together to talk about this incredibly important topic. And my organization, Michelson Found Animals Foundation, is a national private operating foundation based in California. But this is not unique to Colorado. You just described what shelters all across the country are facing, and some of the trends that we're seeing in 2021 compared to 2020. Unfortunately, our average length of stay that are actually double what they were at this time of year in 2020, with shelter animals being in shelters for more than 2 months at a time at this point, on average. We're also seeing intakes of stray animals and the owner surrenders, unfortunately, increasing all across the country for both public and private shelters. And some of those reasons really are the changing lifestyles that we're seeing here in the country, in the United States. We're seeing workplaces change, the housing opportunities change. People are making different decisions about how they're going to live out and do what they can, not only for their families, but for their pets. So the impact that you're seeing is fewer adoptions. You're seeing, again, more owner surrenders, and you're seeing shelters being inundated all across the country because of this.
So the First Gentleman, Marlon Reese, has some introductory remarks, and then he has some questions for our panelists. Marlon?
Thanks, Governor. Let's see here. I want to make sure that I'm unmuted. So as the Governor said, the topic of animal welfare and animal well-being has really been important to me since you'll pardon the expression, I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Nowadays, helping animals of all kinds is really the driving force behind everything I do, both personally in my life as a regular person and professionally as First Gentleman. The situation facing many animal shelters and pet animal rescues right now is a story of extremes. As many of us witnessed and maybe experienced firsthand during the pandemic. As many families and individuals made the difficult decision to stay home to protect their health and their communities, thousands of people decided that it was also the perfect time to seek the joy and companionship that a pet can provide. Here in Colorado, we saw a record number of adoptions, and I'm proud to say that our shelters and rescues really rose to the occasion, and they met the challenge and helped, as they always do, countless pets find their their homes. We often say find their forever homes. Unfortunately, in this case, we're being confronted with a rather peculiar opposite side to that. Unfortunately, we're finding not every adoption lasts. And its owners are realizing the responsibilities that come with adopting an animal and welcoming one into their home and into their family. And life is slowly getting back to normal. People who flocked to adopt last year are now surrendering their animals back to the shelters where they were adopted. So today we're going to delve into the reasons why and how we can all help turn the tide, because our animal shelters and rescues really do need our help. And that's what today's event is all about. We're pleased to be joined by three guests today, one of whom the governor mentioned. They'll all be able to talk in depth about what we can do to help and what potential pet adopters should know before diving in. So Dr. April Steele is a dear friend of mine and the president and CEO of the Dumb Friends League. Aaron Jones is the founder and president of Moms and Mutts Rescue here in Colorado. And Vince Wong, who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past year and who the governor was just speaking with, is the director of collective impact for the Michelson Found Animals Foundation, a national supporter of animal welfare organizations, including several in Colorado. So I just want to begin by thanking April, Aaron, and Vince for joining us today. I know all of our viewers will really appreciate hearing from you. So I'll start the conversation with a question for April. So April, recently the Dumb Friends League put out a press release about being at capacity. And you guys have such an extraordinary shelter. I know it was recently renovated and it's beautiful. I was lucky enough to take a tour with you. But could you say a little bit more about what happened and how you're doing now? And I also see you have a friend with you, so I'm sure everyone would like to know who you've got with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Marlon, for inviting us. And this is Penny. Penny's a 1-year-old pug. She loves people. She loves dogs. She's a little scared of big cats, but that's kind of smart for a little dog. And she is naughty. So I'm going to go ahead and says hello to everybody, and she's wanted to be part of this conversation. So yes, we had a very unusual situation this summer, especially where we were near capacity, and that's, we're 111,000 square foot, so that's saying a lot when we're near capacity. We were seeing things a little bit differently. So we definitely saw adoption returns of guinea pigs. I don't know where all these guinea pigs came from, but somehow this is the pandemic pet, and across the country, guinea pigs are in shelters and need homes. But what we were also seeing is that as life started to open up for our citizens, we were seeing people that were having life changes that they couldn't keep their pet. And these weren't necessarily animals adopted during the pandemic, but these were often people that had to find affordable housing where there were no good options to keep an animal, or it's just life caught up with them. Additionally, we saw a lot of kittens because we had to stop spay and neuter for a while during the pandemic when we didn't want to do elective surgeries. So we saw a lot of extra kittens. Our length of stay is much longer, so each animal stays with us longer. It's just been overwhelming. I will say we put out that press release. We had about 1,700 animals in our care when we put out that press release, and now we're at 1,000. So our community stepped up. We still have lots and lots of animals that need homes, but our community was wonderful how they stepped up and helped us out.
It's so interesting to hear about guinea pigs. One of the things I've definitely enjoyed since becoming First Gentleman is finding out about the range of companion animals that people have. But what great news to hear that you guys are meeting the challenge. And as you said, I know in the beginning we were encouraging people to go out and adopt and not shop for their animals. Go to some of our incredible rescues and shelters and experience firsthand the joy of having an animal companion. So if I might, I'd like to kick over a question to Aaron. Aaron, you work in a very specialized area of animal rescue, fostering and finding homes for mother dogs and their puppies. I love your mission, and I know our viewers will be equally excited to hear you tell us a little bit more about what you've seen at your organization. But first, who do you have with you today?
Thanks, Marlon. This is one of our Mama Wicket puppies. They're 6 weeks old, so they are not quite ready to be adopted yet. But this is one of her little girls, and she's a wiggle butt, but she's doing a great job. She's doing awesome. We've seen a large number of returns over the past year. Most of the dogs were adopted as puppies, and then they're being returned as teenager and adult dogs. This has been really challenging because we're entirely foster based, and it takes a lot longer for teenage and adult dogs to find their forever homes. Oftentimes this means moving them from foster home, which can be really stressful on the dog, and it can be really instrumental in contributing to behavioral issues like separation anxiety and fear-based aggression. So we've really seen a lot of these older dogs being returned, and which has caused a lot of issues in our organization.
So thank you for that, Aaron. Vince, it's easy to get excited about the idea of adding a pet to your family. Maybe the kids want a dog. Maybe you're spending time outdoors. You say, I want a pet to explore the outdoors with. But before making that great decision to add a pet to your family, what are some factors you want to make sure that people should consider?
Well, I think you just already hit the nail on the head as a starting point. Pets are important members of our family. Overwhelmingly, Americans consider pets to be that important member of your family. And when you're making that life-changing decision for you and your kids or your spouses, your partners, whomever it is, you have to take time to make that decision. You're bringing in a pet for 5, 10, 15 years, maybe more if it's perhaps a different kind of companion animal. And there are costs associated with that. You definitely want to factor in the things cost of pet food, cost of veterinary care, cost of housing your pet in circumstances like we're just having with the pandemic, and changes need to be made. So it's really important for families to research what the kind of pet is and what are the kinds of living conditions that your pet will need. Is it a behavior pet that needs a lot of outdoor space, not a playtime, and a lot of human interaction, or perhaps other pet interaction? Do they have a companion pet that might be adoptable together? If you're going to be back to the office for 8 to 10 hours a day, or out of the home for 8 to 10 hours a day, will your pet be able to withstand that separation anxiety and leaving them at home and not being an option? Would you want to consider having a pet-friendly workplace as an option, that you want to bring your pet with you to your office if that's allowed? You want to consider things, for instance, like, do you have the right kind of lifestyle? If you are an active person, an active pet is probably better for you rather than a pet that prefers to be indoors all of the time. I think it's super important, again, to understand you're making a life-changing decision in this circumstance. So take the time to do so and work with your external partners, perhaps most importantly. If you're living in a rental housing situation, ensuring that your property manager allows your pets in the first place, so that you don't bring a pet home, adopt one, love them for a month, and then find out that you can't keep that pet and have to relinquish it. So really taking the time to think through it, I think, is the most important thing we can do.
Sorry. All right. Vince, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. It sort of jogged my memory when the governor and I adopted our pup Gia, who is now 12 and a half. We adopted her when she was roughly about 12 weeks old. I remember bringing her home, and what was going through my mind was all of the different ways that I would be rearranging my life to make sure that she had a great one. Especially as we go into the holidays, we know we need to think about pets not as things that you just give as a gift. They're living creatures, as you mentioned, that experience emotions. They experience anxiety, fear. They're happy when you're near. I know Gia is only truly happy when our entire pack is together.
And another thing I remember, Marlon, is, when we were looking for the right dog for our family, we knew that I was elected to Congress, and we went back and forth between DC and Denver. So a very important criteria is they wouldn't be too big to take on the airplane and go under the seat. And so I think they said 20 pounds or under is the max for that. And you can never know exactly with a rescue, but we had a pretty good idea based on the puppy size that, she'd be in the 10 to 15 pound range. And she's a little overweight now. She's 14 pounds. She's supposed to be 11 or 12. Marlon gives her too many treats. But in any event, we're able to travel with her. So for our family lifestyle, having a dog that fully grown was under 20 pounds was critical because we knew that we were going to take her with us on our frequent travels. Back to you, Marlon.
Yeah, it's I want to jump back into asking our guests some questions, but I was thinking recently when I was mentioning to a friend who was considering adopting, I just made a very simple analogy, which is as people, if we want to go outside for a walk and get some fresh air, we can just go to the door and open it and leave and stay out as long as we want. If we need to use the bathroom, we just go to the bathroom in our home. And we need to remember that our companion animals are depending on us for something as simple as opening the door and making time to go out for a walk. So that's a key thing. I was wondering also, and this can be for April, Aaron, Vince, any of you who'd like to chime in. But too often these days, people's circumstances change suddenly. We're getting used to this as life adjusts to this pandemic. And often we're experiencing changes in dramatic ways. And that's just a fact of life. So people move, they get new jobs, people might take ill and be unable to provide for the animals that they've adopted, or any of the other countless changes that can affect both you and your new pet. And many people think, I can take the dog back to the shelter. But this isn't an easy decision, and it can affect our shelters, and it certainly affects our pets. And I was hoping each of you guys might sort of add to that and help our viewers understand, why that's such a problem that we're facing these days.
Well, I guess I'll answer this question. Life happens. Circumstances change. We don't always have control over these things. And we're not in a position to judge because we don't know what everyone's going through. But we always encourage everyone to exhaust every single option before surrendering their dogs. The transition from going from a puppy where you've lived in a home for your entire life to being taken away from the people you know and moved to another home. Usually it's more than one home because adult dogs who are returned often have to switch foster homes multiple times. It's really, really hard on a dog, and it can lead to behavioral issues that didn't exist prior to, being surrendered. And they're also really hard on rescue organizations. When we have surrenders come back, it is really challenging. We are entirely foster based. So we have to find a foster, sometimes multiple fosters for one specific dog. And that means the dog's moving back and forth. We also have to care for this dog. And it takes a lot longer for an adult dog to find their forever home. And so for rescue organizations, that means we are paying for the food and veterinary care and training for an adult dog for the duration until that dog finds its forever home once again.
So, Vince, in a lot of cases, when people returning to their offices, they adopted dogs that only knew them to be at home all the time working. And so that can be traumatic for the dog, and they don't always react too well. Now, you've seen an interesting way that some employers are addressing this. And also, what tips would you have for somebody who is going to be leaving their dog alone for long periods of time for the first time?
Yeah, I've seen quite an interesting trend, actually. And for several years now, companies have recognized just the strength of the human-animal connection, and particularly when apart for long periods of time and on a regular basis. So many companies across the country are adopting pet-friendly workplace.
Let me just add, Vince, that the governor's office is pet-friendly. We absolutely, even before the pandemic, we always have a few dogs in the governor's office. So we're one of those office places.
That's fantastic. Taking the trend forward for sure. And I think it's one of those opportunities for us to engage all areas where our lives intersect with our pets and with other people. So not only in the workplace, but also in the home. I mentioned earlier that in a lot of circumstances, property managers may have policies which prohibit or restrict the kinds of pets which can be in housing. But working with your workplaces, working with your housing property managers, and making sure that they're, like Erin said, exhausting every opportunity, providing things like a pet resume and providing proof of vaccination and spay, neuter, and good behavior, giving an opportunity for everyone to work with you where you can be in a pet-friendly environment so that your pet feels satisfied and secure, so that you feel satisfied and secure. These are things that I think can go a long way towards making sure that we can keep pets in our families and out of shelters.
As we know, we're in December now, even though at least here in Colorado, it doesn't really look like December, but the holidays are coming up, as we mentioned earlier. And, this is a time when many families are considering adding a pet to their families and possibly gifting a pet to a friend, which comes with its own complications. As I know, sometimes you're just not prepared. As you guys have mentioned, you don't know everything that goes into caring for a pet and making sure that that pet has a really great, fulfilling life. But no matter what sort of a pet a family or an individual is adopting, a cat, a dog, a hamster, gerbils, these animals are not simply things, and adoption is a serious undertaking. And so I was hoping to hear from April, certainly from you and from Erin. What are some of the ways that you guys prepare potential adopters and sort of educate them before they make the decision to take on a pet, especially this time of year, but really all year round?
Yeah, I'll jump in. And first I have to say, I'm not surprised that Marlon overfeeds Gia, but no, I'm just kidding. It's food is love, right? But so as has been so eloquently said during this conversation, it's about your lifestyle and what's a fit for your family. And it's a conversation that really needs to be had. So our adoption counselors sit down with potential adopters and help them figure out how they envision this animal fitting into their life, the time they have for the animal, the resources they have for the animal, and then help make a fit for them. And sometimes they come in and they say, we want this specific animal, and it's absolutely not a fit for what they're able to provide or what their lifestyle is like. So we get them to a point of seeing that differently and bonding with an animal that will be a fit. Also, for holidays and gifts, we really encourage people to give gift cards. We have gift cards. You can give still the joy of having a pet through a gift card, but let that family decide what is a fit for them. Let them make the commitment, because you cannot make a commitment for somebody else. And that's what happens if you hand them a pet, that's what you're trying to do.
I think, excuse me, I think it's very important to also think about what it means to have a puppy in particular. What are you going to do if this puppy eats your couch or your favorite pair of shoes? There are a lot of situations that happen with juvenile pets that people don't always think about. And we really like to ask our adopters, what will you do if the dog eats your couch? How are you going to, accommodate their exercise needs while you're at work all day if you can't bring them to work? And these are really important questions for people to ask. Is a puppy or any pet going to fit into my lifestyle? And am I willing to handle the issues that come with that pet, which, can be destruction of property, can be peeing on your new rug. So you need to really think about the consequences of having a pet, as well as the love that you're going to get from them.
Erin, you mentioned something that I now fondly remember, but in the beginning I was surprised when we brought Gia home and we adopted her from a humane society in Englewood. She came to our apartment and chewed all of the baseboards and chewed all of our shoes, and I had only ever had cats growing up, and so I was completely unaccustomed. And of course, Jared was in Congress at the time, and you expect to get phone calls for issues related to what voters are concerned with, but I know I was causing him a lot of undue stress, perhaps calling him and saying, I don't know what to do. Gia is eating everything in the house. So, we moved through that. I'm so happy. I think it bears mentioning that, when you're adopting animals, you have to understand that they are going to fulfill their nature. They're going through teething phases, or if you're adopting an older pet, which I adore. I love people who adopt senior animals. Maybe they are going to be a little bit less energetic.
Yeah.
So one more question, then I wanted to kick it back over to the governor. But if each of you guys could sort of share with our viewers what the most important 1 to 2 questions that a potential adopter should ask before making the decision to adopt or get a pet. What would you guys say is most important for people to understand?
I'll kick that off. I believe that just like we would say and ask ourselves, is a pet the right thing for me at this time? Can I accommodate the pet? We should also ask ourselves, are we the right person or family for this pet as well?
I agree with that. I think people really need to take an honest look at their own situation prior to adopting a pet. Vince has touched on this. April has touched on it. If you're somebody who's really physically active and you want to go on outdoor adventures with your pet, you probably don't want to adopt a guinea pig or a cat or, a chihuahua. On the flip side of that, if you're somebody that likes to sit at home and chill out, you probably don't want a high energy dog that's going to need a lot of exercise. You really need to look at yourself and who you actually are in order to understand what kind of pet will work best for you.
Yeah, and I agree. Just how does it fit into your household? How does it fit into your life? And also, what are you going to do? What's your plan if you have to leave town, or if it has a medical issue? How are you going to provide for those needs?
Those are such great points, and thank you guys for sharing them. I think sometimes when people and this is certainly not a judgment, but when people walk into a shelter or they walk into a place where they're going to get, possibly adopt an animal, they're so overcome with excitement a lot of these really common sense concerns sort of just fly out the window. You know, as I said, she is 12 and a half years old, and I think about her constantly. I like to think she thinks about me. And, you know, you want to give a good life to your pet and make sure their needs are met, and not just physical, but also mental stimulation too. So I'm going to kick it back over to the governor. And Jared, if you've got additional questions.
I want to thank our experts for joining us today. And I want to encourage Coloradans to adopt if you're ready to take on the joy and the responsibility of having a pet. There are great, wonderful cats, dogs, ferrets, guinea pigs, rabbits available at your local shelter. And we hope that each and every one of them finds a wonderful forever home very soon, this holiday season and beyond. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to all of our furry friends out there and to our human friends as well.
I also want to add one last point. I think it's an important one. We're lucky in Colorado. We have so many wonderful shelters and rescues. And we have responsible breeders who are willing to and only too happy to have you come and visit the parent animals in their home. It's important to do your research and to go in with open eyes and make sure that the animal you're considering adding to your family is healthy and that you have an understanding of what sort of behavior to expect and of course how you're going to be a good pet parent. So I also want to thank our experts today for the work that you do every day and for helping educate all of us about what it means to be a pet parent. And so I also want to wish everyone a happy holidays. And it's been a pleasure talking with everyone today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.